welcome to this week's Karma Cards. Energy-wise speaking, we are right between two eclipses. We're in eclipse season right now. We just had the new moon solar eclipse happen last Saturday, and in about a week and a half now, we will be up at the lunar full moon eclipse coming up here in Taurus. So right now, we are working through what it is we're letting go so we can allow something bigger to come through. And with that, we've got Mercury going to be moving into Scorpio, and then the Sun will join Mercury in Scorpio by the end of this week. So we're shifting seasons and the energy is going to shift. And whenever we're moving into Scorpio, the energy is moving into a place where we're going deeper into our truth. We're really looking at how things work underneath the surface and how things connect together. It's a very psychic time of energy. Of course, this is when Halloween and Day of the Dead fall during Scorpio season, because the veil between the two worlds is said to be at its thinnest right at the end of October, beginning of November, which means we have more access to the non-physical or metaphysical at this time, and the collective is more able to access that energy as well. It also looks like we've got some solar weather coming in. It looks like the KP index is going to be shooting up. That's tomorrow. That's going to be on Thursday, October 19th is when we're going to see that spike in energy. And the Schumann has been doing some cool things, including creating something that a girl in the universe posted and said it looked like angel wings, and it really did, the way that the golden bars were appearing on the Schumann resonance. So we definitely have some activity happening at this time. Now, before I go any further, I wanted to share with you our sponsor for this episode of Karma Cards. Psst, it's me. This episode of Karma Cards is sponsored by the Epic Year Workshop 2024. If you're ready to set goals and create a life of intentional magic in 2024, join me November 15th and 16th for a 2-day goal setting and strategy planning workshop for your 2024 year. Now, this isn't your average goal setting workshop, because in it, we use your personal numerology and astrology to find out what activities are most in alignment with you to help you set strong goals that truly feel in flow with your life. If you're interested, go to the link below. That's blythestarlight.com/epic-year and join us for the Epic Year Workshop 2024. I hope to see you there. Now that brings us to the message from my team in spirit for this week. And what they want to talk about is the difference between free will, fate, and destiny, because there is obviously a difference between these two, especially when we're looking at things like free will and fate. Free will obviously implying that you have the right to choose whatever happens into your life, and fate implies that there's something specific that will happen in your life that you can't really avoid. And then destiny often gets confused with fate, but it has a completely different connotation, and I'm going to explain that in a moment. First, I want to talk about the paradox that is free will and fate, because believe it or not, I actually believe that both exist. Now, I know that free will is a universal law. It is something that all beings have. We're allowed to go with or against something, whether it's being given to us by other humans or the universe at large. Like, the universe at large often gives us advice about the most beneficial road to take, but we always have the free will to choose whatever road we'd like to take. When I'm looking at fate, how I'm seeing fate is our soul contracts, the things that we came here to do. And I do believe that we all create a soul contract before we come to this earth. And the contract usually has to do with not only things that we are intending to do, but mostly with people. And I believe we create these soul contracts because of the karma that we incur from lifetime to lifetime, that we may have come here to either be of an assistance to another person or to sort of clear a karmic energy between you and another person. And so because of that contract, that does act as a type of fate. It is something that is a good way to look at it. It's like the bare minimum of what you came here to do was sort of check those things off of your list. So if fate and free will exist. How is that possible, right? Because they seem paradoxical. It seems like you could avoid what is fated for you in your soul contract. And again, I do believe you could try, but I do believe there is a kind of thing. It's like the metaphor that we have, that you're going to meet your fate on the road you take to avoid it. And if we look at mythology that's been passed down to us, we often have stories that show us that even when you try to avoid your fate, you're going to end up meeting it. So it's really like you have the choice of facing it directly or taking the scenic route or trying to avoid it altogether. That's where the free will comes in. But the fate is like, no matter which road you take, you ultimately end up at a certain destination. And a great example of this, we have so many examples of this, right? But the one that comes to mind for me is the mythology about Saturn and Jupiter, right? And we're looking at them from their, I believe those are their Roman god names, is Saturn and Jupiter. But we're looking at the story of like Kronos and Zeus. And it's the story where Saturn, or Kronos, is told that one of his sons is going to kill him and become the king. And so what does Saturn decide to do when he hears this information? So he wants to avoid that fate. And if he believes if he lets his children live, then one of them are going to attack him. And so Saturn decides to swallow all of his children just to be safe. He decided to ingest them all. And in doing so, that created the reason why one of his sons, in this case it's Zeus or Jupiter, that Jupiter decides, I've had enough and I'm breaking us all free. And he ends up splitting open Saturn and releasing all of Saturn's children, and becomes king of the gods. And so you can see that the fate was Jupiter becomes king of the gods instead of Saturn. But in trying to avoid that fate, he actually created the scenario in which that fate would most likely take place. And I believe that these types of metaphors are handed to us to let us know that, look, this is your soul contract. This is actually what you're here to do. And no matter what choice you make, ultimately you're going to come back to having this experience so that you can clear it karmically. And that is what I see as a type of fate. Now let's talk about the difference between fate and destiny. So fate, again, I would say represents the soul contracts that we make. And a lot of times these contracts are created because either we're always helping each other. So it's either we're helping someone else in some of our contracts or they're helping us. But the idea is to balance and zero out karma so that we can move forward, right? So anything we sort of left before or we agreed to assist someone with, that's what gets dealt with at the fate level. So no matter what choices we make, we're always sort of moving towards fulfilling that contract. And you can kind of think about it as, from our soul's perspective, the bare minimum of what we came here to do. And I don't want to dismiss that helping others is like not enough. Of course it's enough, but it's the minimum expectation we have for ourselves is to make good on these contracts that we have. And so that would represent the fated life. Now, destiny is different. Destiny has to do with our potential and what we could become if we choose to. So where the fated life is sort of your basic package, the destiny life is the deluxe package. And our destiny is always about moving towards bringing more of our soul into this experience, right? And what I mean by that is more of the qualities of who we truly are and allowing them to be expressed within this lifetime. And again, it's also a choice. So just like fate, your destiny will always be there. It will always exist. And you'll always be able to touch on it. But to bring it into your full potential, your destiny represents your full potential. And so you have the free will to bring that in or not, right? And just like fate, there's always going to be a touch of destiny in your life. I do believe that there are just moments where you're going to touch on that because I believe that we would contract for that too, like to know ourselves to the best of our ability in this life. And I think that sometimes we get glimpses of it. Sometimes people see that as maybe missed opportunities. And you can tell when you've missed a destiny point because it kind of sticks with you. You don't forget that there was a choice point there, that if you had gone a different way, you'd be experiencing that part of yourself. So our destined life is filled with our potential, and we always have the choice to move towards that. So we're going to experience both fate and destiny in this lifetime, but the degree to which we will experience those is connected to our free will and the choices that we make. Like I said, a lot of times with fate, you meet fate on the road you take to avoid it. So you have choices with, how will I engage with this energy? Am I going to meet it head on? I'm going to take the scenic route, or am I going to try to avoid it, right? But either way, you're going to meet with it. And I believe that many times what happens is when we try to avoid that thing that's inevitable in our life, we create more catalyst, right? So one of the things they talk about in the law of one is that catalyst is offered to you in equal measure, meaning there's 50% positive catalyst and 50% negative catalyst. And you're going to experience these things. And so therefore, the way that you approach fated energy, like having to deal with a person in your life, I just heard in my mind, well, tell me what fated energy is. It's like, I would say some of the circumstances you end up in are fated to some degree. Some of the definitely the relationships that you have can be fated, and you kind of know the ones that feel like there's some karma to work out. And remember, karma is a neutral term. It can either be bad karma or good karma, but you know that you're like, this person's in your life for a reason. It's not a passing coincidence. It's going to leave an energetic imprint, right? So this is how we know if we're dealing with that energy. And of course, I find that when we choose to face things head on, we're usually garnering positive catalyst, where we're at least minimizing any negative catalyst we could receive in that situation. Whereas again, when the path that you take to avoid fate is usually what brings you negative catalyst, because catalyst is meant to keep you on your life track. So we can even try to leave the life track, but we tend to design in our life contracts catalysts that will ensure that we do this. So on a soul level, we know, like, this is the work I need to do. This is why I'm back here. It's like, imagine going to the grocery store without any intention or understanding of what you're there to buy, right? That would be very pointless way to use your time. So when we go to the grocery store, we have an intention, if not even a list of, this is why I am here. I am in this place to do this job and get this thing out of it. Well, that's why we're in this life, right? We're here for specific reasons. Now, everybody's reasons are different. There are some people who are here to do a lot of work in a short period of time. There are some other people who did that last life, and they're here to sort of like take a break and go through experience and get to know themselves. We all have different reasons, but there is the bare minimum, the fated version of your life, and then there's the destined version, which is the advanced or deluxe version of your life, which how much of myself and my true essence can I bring into this life and express. And the destined life is usually the one that we're drawn to. It is the kind of North Star in your life where you're like, that's what I want life to look like. And it's because it's in alignment with who you are deeply at a soul level. And so it has a very strong pull and a very strong call to you. So as you're moving forward, especially we're getting close to the end of the year. When we get close to the end of the year, we tend to think about the things we want for next year, or we do a life review, right? We look at our life. How did I spend this last year? What do I wish I had done? And what do I want to get out of it? Our minds naturally go here. And whenever you're thinking about that, you're thinking about your destiny, what your potential is, what you could be. And that's why I love doing the Epic Year workshop every year, because we are looking at that, one, from that emotional standpoint of what do I want, but two, we're using our personal vibration energy to align to, on our soul path, where are we at right now, because we have a few things that mark that. And two of those things are astrology, which is how your stars are moving, because your stars, your natal chart represents what happened at your time of birth, kind of the snapshot of, here's my plan. But the stars progress every year, and so do you. You are on a progressive path. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at the progressed path of your numerology, and that starts at your time of birth, or your day of birth rather, and it continually progresses forward. And so we look at these factors, and then we look at what we're being emotionally drawn to, and we see how we can work together with these to create a path forward that feels the most aligned and most at ease. And many people in the process of doing this work, they find that they're naturally aligned to, or they're naturally drawn to engaging with the things that they're most energetically aligned to, and many times they achieve those goals. So I'm excited to share that with you. But first, before we go into any more of that, let's go check out this week's karma card. If you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel, what is the guidance you need at this time? Are you looking for action related guidance, outcome related guidance, or are you looking for both? While you're thinking about that, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for October 18th through October 25th. And the flavor of this reading, we've got the sun. Sun's a good one to get. This one's about self-actualizing. So something coming to life or light with this card. In the sign of Libra, which is where the sun is currently at right now. So this is very much about harmony, balance, and relationships. In the 4th house, the 4th house represents a lot of different things, but it represents your past, it represents your family, and it also can represent your inner world. All right, for those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to demonstrate relationships as you did in the past. We're in a really interesting time in the world right now. There was a lot of extreme divisiveness back in 2020, and I've noticed that as we're moving forward, you can still see quite a bit of divisiveness, but people are returning to their understanding of relationships and how nuanced they are. So I actually see more people kind of waking up from sort of the fear and the trauma of the past, and recognizing that, no matter what happens or what someone ultimately believes, at the end of the day, we have each other, and that's the most important thing. And so I feel like there is this return to valuing relationships that had been eroded a little bit in the past. And I feel like, believe it or not, then there's always going to be a lot of divisive things in the world, but there is this return to remembering relationships. And so they're asking that, that we keep that at the forefront of our mind, that relationships are really the only thing you get to take with you. Nothing else from this life comes with you as you leave, except the relationships that you make. And so taking good care of those, as you did in the past, now becomes the forefront for us spiritually. Mental action at this time, realize the beauty of your home base or family. Of course, we're moving into a season where, family and gathering together does become the forefront. So again, we're at the point in the pendulum, this pendulum swings back and forth all the time, and we're always trying to find that middle point. But when it swings to the extreme of like, this is what's wrong and this is how it doesn't work, there's also the other end where this is how it's right and this is how it does work. And so on an emotional level, at this time, we're moving into that energy of like, what does work? Because you always will be given the choice. Like I said earlier, we are provided with 50-50 when it comes to catalysts, positive and negative. And in every situation on this plane, and my team's like, cha-ching, In every situation on this plane, you're going to be offered the view to look at something through two lenses. You can see how something works and you can see how something doesn't work. You can see how it's a solution or it's a problem. And it really depends on how you're choosing to look at it. So it feels like for this week, the pendulum is moving towards how does this work and what is good about something. So the mind is going in that direction and asking us to notice these things because, of course, both coexist together. But what truly will be dominant in your experience is what you choose to focus on. And it looks like the mind wants to focus on the positive at this time. Physical action at this time, act like a leader, do it with your partners, and do what makes you feel secure. So again, the leader is the one that recognizes, they see the path, right? So oftentimes people think leadership is like you choose to be a leader and then you see the path, but really it's the one who sees the path is the one who's naturally the leader. They just get it, right? And so it's letting you know that you're on that path right now. You're the harmony bringer right now. You're the one leading this swing to the positive or to the solution or how things are working well, right? It's your mind that's sort of like taking this forward. So whenever this comes up, I know the message is for you directly, that wherever it's happening in your life, if you're waiting for someone else to take the lead on this and be the more harmonious or compassionate or grounded one, but you're the one getting the message, well, then you see the path and you're the leader here. So here's another call to let you know, like, if you want this, you're the one that demonstrates it, that shows it, that brings it out. And you will have cooperation. You will have people who work with you on this. And in doing so, that creates that sense of security that if you're looking for it or waiting for it, the act of waiting is not a secure feeling, right? It's full of doubt. It's full of like what will happen when we're waiting. When we're aware that we have the vision of where this is going, well, we're not waiting then, right? We're acting. And when we're acting, we naturally feel more secure because we at least know what action we're taking. So we have some decisiveness and that gives us a sense of security. So now let's look at outcomes for the sun in Libra in the 4th house of the past and the inner world. The spiritual outcome at this time is the creation of cooperation to perfect what makes you feel secure. So you can see this pretty much answers what just was said. So as you take that role of leadership, which simply means I see how to move forward, you are literally creating the cooperation with others because they also want that too, right? If you're the one who sees, like if you wanted to go in a certain direction, like let's say you want to go north and you're the one with the compass and you know how to go north. Well, everybody wants to go north. You're just the one guiding everybody to it. That's what the leader is doing. So as you make this decision that things are actually better because everything has a positive and negative, and therefore I can see the positive benefits or the things that are happening that are good here, you're naturally going to have people working with you. They want to go with you. And again, that's what creates that sense of security. Mental outcome at this time, the granting of respect for or from decisions about support. And again, this is another one of those things where we can see it or not. And so what I'm really getting at this time is it's not about finding that middle nuanced place, but rather seeing it, again, not in a black and white space, but as in a positive or negative. And what I mean is that no matter what's presenting to you, it has both lights. You can see it both ways. That's the way this realm is designed. It is a realm of polarity and opposition, and so it will provide you with the ability to see it both ways. When you make the decision that I can see the good in whatever scenario is presented to me, that's when that respect and understanding kicks in. It might be that the respect is given to you. Again, you might gain that respect that they're like, wow, you really have this view that allows you to move forward in a more peaceful, joyful, and grounded way. And I want to adopt that. I really respect that. Or it just might be from internally, where it's like, I really like the way it feels to acknowledge that I can see both. And because I can see both, now I can choose which one I prefer. Physical outcome at this time: things brought to life or light resulting from the fairness shown by your home base or family. So again, one of the interesting things about it is we tend to, as human beings, when we're in a situation that feels unfair or unloving or negative, there's a part of our brain that tends to want to go into, you need to change to fix this. And that almost never works. That approach fails almost 100% of the time, because you can't force anyone to change. They have to come to that conclusion on their own. And so what option do we have? The only option we have is to change how we're looking at this. And we do this not because we're trying to manipulate or change other people, but because we're realizing that the way I'm looking at this is creating more pain for myself. So how do I see this in a different life? How do I look at this in a way where I'm softening my perspective, or I'm looking for the solution, or I'm looking for what good there is? Because it's just like the yin yang symbol, right? Within darkness there's still light, and within light there's still darkness. It represents this idea that we're talking about right now. When we make the choice to change our perspective or change how we're looking at it, ultimately we're doing it for our own peace of mind. But a miracle tends to happen in this place. You've shifted, and so the world shifts with you. And again, it's not, you can't control this, and you can't say, well, I shifted, so this person should shift. You can't get that. But you shift, and the world shifts with you. Your energy shifts, and people respond differently to you. And so this is what this is talking about. Like, as we shift looking at things, others shift with us. And it might be because we're just looking at them differently. Maybe we're giving them an opening we didn't give them before. Who knows what that is? But as you shift into this lighter, more harmonious perspective, they shift too. And as they shift, there is a fairness there, right? Like finally, that thing that you needed them to acknowledge or see, there's a probability that that can finally be acknowledged, or that the need of it is now gone. And so therefore you see things a little differently. But what you find is that without the need of controlling, without the requirement of expectation, but rather for purely for your own sake of, it feels better to look at it this way, you've created a shift in yourself, which shifts your environment, which shifts how others interact with you. And so there is a lot of harmonious energy coming through that starts from you. And so you have this beautiful ability at this time to create this lovely ripple effect that has a healing and powerful energy in both directions. Simply for you making the choice that if both are true, I'm going to choose the one that feels better to me. And as you choose the perspective that feels better to you, things shift. So with that, I'm sending you so much love. Have a beautiful week. And I hope I get to see you at the Epic Gear Workshop 2024. See you next week.